All right, so I think we need the answer there. All right.
You're going to say the answer question or something?
Yeah, we're going to go through everything on the board together. All right. I mean, if you all want a chance to do the paper and you want that kind of stuff, we could do that too. But I think it might be better to kind of talk things out, get things going. All right. So good morning. Good morning to the one person on the live. Thanks for joining. All right. But that's okay. I don't mind if we have one person. I ready to start. All right. Sorry for the late. A bit of a delay in the start, but had some things to get done. All right. So this is the 2017 CSEC paper 2, right? May-June 2017. All right. What we're gonna do basically is just kind of go through it piece by piece, question by question, answer it. Now the paper takes 2 hours. We only have 1 hour and a half till 12. We break in at 12 for lunch, and then we're gonna start back at 1 o'clock, and hopefully get the 2018 paper done. Right? If we move fast and we finish multiple papers in a session, then great. Right? If not, well, what we're gonna do. All right. Okay. So the first thing says to define the term opportunity cost. So let me hear you. Anybody? Anything? Yes, you are talking to. You all the class here.
Opportunity cost is the next best alternative for
Foregone. All right. Cool. So, sorry. Let me just get things in order. All right. So I'm not gonna type over the question. I'm just gonna type the solution. Let me I like to just get some things going here. All right. Cool. So you said opportunity cost. So you said the next best alternative foregone. What does that mean?
That you had 2 choices, 2 or more.
Right.
And so if you pick one, then the other one that you didn't pick is the opportunity cost.
Right. So when we have to choose something, we usually have a cost involved, right? So for example, if you wanted to buy a doubles, you'd have to probably pay $5, right? If, however, you said, look, you only have $5, you can either buy a doubles, right? Or you could probably buy, let me say, aloo pie. And let's say you were indifferent, so either one is either one, right? But let's say you have money, I could either pay to go to the Boudreaux concert, or you could pay for some trip to go to Tobago, right? So let's say you opted to go to Tobago, the cost of your decision was not just the money involved, but was the choice you had to give up, the opportunity that you had to give up. Like I said, Gio, the next best alternative, foregone. Foregone means to do without, right? So you had to give up something to get something else, right? So opportunity cost is the cost of a decision or choice in terms of what was given up, right? Given up or foregone. Did I spell that correctly? Yeah, foregone. In order to go with the choice. Go with the choice. No, I don't like that. In order to. How do we end that sentence? Sorry, I'm going to get 1 second. Alright, good job. Joy. Hey, Joy. Yeah, I think I just space here with some people. No, sir. Some 2017 stuff there. Alright, I'll give you people. Let me just shift this stuff so you have a more comfortable position. Right. So we're talking about opportunity cost. Right. So yeah, what's in the fridge? In order to go with that decision. Right? Another way to put it, an error occurred. Oops, what is the error occurred, boy? Please try again later. Okay. Sorry, the stream seems to have dropped. Not entirely sure why. It says stream health is good. Okay, cool. To go with that decision. In other words, no. I'm just putting alternatives for everybody. People who may have different what you call it, definitions of opportunity cost, right? So control tab, shift enter, right? In other words, all right, it is the next best alternative foregone. All right, cool. So that's part A. Yeah, 2017. We'll do 2018 after lunch. All right, so part B now. What does part B want? List 3 groups that make choices in an economy. Sorry. Oh, hold on, wait. We forgot something, didn't we?
What was that?
in the first part of the question, it said 2 marks. So sometimes now, I'm accustomed to the GCE econ, which is they have to give like the 2 marks, 1 mark is definition, 1 mark is example. Right? So I mean, you have 4 lines so you can give an example. So if you're in doubt as to whether or not your definition meets the requirements for the full 2 marks, you can give an example.
So most of the questions you have to give examples on it.
Yeah, well, when I did it, my teacher was like, yeah, he has a formula for answering in marks. Definition, example, assumptions, formula, diagram. And if you have to go further, the analysis, evaluation, conclusion. Right? Okay, so we can omit that one for now. Let's go to 3 groups that make choices in an economy. All right, so let me hear you. What are some of the groups in an economy? Households, firms, and government, right? So let's just put that households, right, firms, and the government are 3 groups that make choices in an economy. I think that sounds good enough to me. Anybody want to add anything there? No? All right, cool. I'll go back just now, Jordan. Let's try and go through them as quickly as possible, right? With the aid of a diagram, explain how a possibility frontier shows increasing opportunity cost. All right, let's see how many marks for that, by the way. That's 6 marks, right? So we know we're probably going to get like 2 or 3 marks for the diagram, plus the remainder of the marks from the example, all right? Right, so explain how a production possibility frontier shows increasing opportunity cost. All right, so what we're gonna do is let's get some room going on there. Let me just check something to see how many more pieces to that question. D. All right. Okay, so just 1 more piece of that question. All right. So let's get that diagram going, shall we? All right, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna hand draw this. Should I go? Yeah, let me hand draw it because I'm more comfortable with that stuff. All right, so let's do draw. Let's do that. Okay, cool. Oops, no, not you. All right, that'll work for now. Actually, no, you know what? I still wanted to be slightly straighter than that. All right, that'll work. That'll work. All right, so you have 2 axes. Right, now with these curves, you can have 3 different appearances. You can have a straight line, a concave line, or a convex line. So a straight line will look like this. All right, a concave line I think looks like this. And a convex line looks like this.
So any meanings?
Concave, convex, and straight line?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, remember the question said, if we go back to what the question was saying, right?
Yeah.
It says, explain how a production possibility frontier shows increasing opportunity cost. So which one of those diagrams do you think shows an increasing opportunity cost? So a straight line we know would not show that. Those who have done maths. Why? A straight line
Equals 0.
A straight line equals 0. I guess it depends on how you draw the straight line, because that's not wrong. If you were to draw a perfectly horizontal line, you have 0 gradient, all right? If you were to draw a straight line like that, you have a constant gradient. So I don't think that represents an increasing opportunity cost, because if I'm not mistaken, and I could be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't the gradient of the line represent the opportunity cost? And with the gradient is how much the change in y over the change in x. So let's do you all put specific goods on the axis, or do you just put like good A and good B?
You can put good B and good B if you don't really specify.
All right, cool. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna put good X on this one. So good X, just because it's the X-axis, and this one we put good Y because it's the Y-axis. All right. So what happens here now? So to show opportunity cost, remember, opportunity cost is the cost of a choice in terms of what was given up to choose it. So it implies you have a choice to make. You can either do something at one point or something at another point. So if we choose, for example, let's say you have point A on your production possibility frontier, and let's say you have point B. right? And at point A, right, we're producing, let's say, y1 of good y, right? So y1 and quantity x1 of good x. And at point B, oops, let's try that again. That will work, right? At point B, you're producing y2 of good y, that's the quantity, and you're producing x2, right? So to move from point A to point B, right? So let's say you were producing at point A and you had to go to point B. It means the production of good y would have to do what? Increase or decrease?
Decrease.
The production of good y would have to drop from y1 to y2, and the production of good x would have to increase from x1 to x2. Not so? All right. So you'll be giving up this much to gain this much here. Now, I'm not sure how that shows an increasing opportunity cost, but what we could do is examine another change. Suppose you try to go further down the production possibility from the till, let's say point C. All right, so let me just get a little eraser action going here. All right, let's go back to pencil. Right, so let's go to point C now. Well, that's not a very short line at all. All right, check this. Does this decrease? So if we went from point B to point C, right? Does this decrease of YC more or less than the initial decrease?
Oh.
It seems, well, let's check it out, right? So we had, look at this distance here and compare to this distance here. Are they about the same?
Yeah.
About the same, right? But look at how much we gained here from the initial change. So this here is the change in X. Let's say change in X1, right? But look here at the amount that we gained here, change in X2. And let's put X3 here, right? So we initially increased from here to here, and then we increased from here to here. So let's just label it delta 1 and delta 2. Which one seems bigger, delta 1 or delta 2? Delta 1, yeah, because just from diagram, just from visually, right, that one seems bigger. I agree, right? Look, all this here is the increase in delta 1, right? Actually, all this. And now the second increase, let's put that one in a different color so it sounds a little bit more, right? Let's go with silver, right? Cool. And then this one here now is the change in the second one. So how much extra was gained? As much as the first time?
No.
No. So what happened there was that we gave up the same amount, but we got less. So if you're paying the same amount for less, what does that say about the cost of that which you're getting? Is it increasing or decreasing? It's increasing. So you're giving up the same to get less. Or you could say you're giving up, well, yeah, actually that would be the better, the more accurate thing. You're giving up more, so you're giving the same to get less. All right. So think of a diagram here, kind of illustrates what we're supposed to do, right? So always remember to answer what the question is asking, right? So the first question is, let's just see what the question is asking again. A of a diagram, explain how a production possibility frontier shows increasing opportunity cost. So increasing cost could either mean you have to pay more to get the same amount, or if you pay the same amount, you actually get less. All right?
So what's another question I have to ask you?
Another question like that they could ask you?
Yeah.
Well, they could actually flip it and ask, with the aid of a PPF, show how you could get decrease in opportunity cost. Or decrease in opportunity cost?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Okay, well let me label these diagrams then.
So that'll be a concave line.
That'll be a concave line. That is correct. A concave line is one that kind of bellies in, as opposed to bellies out, right? So this diagram over here shows, whoops, I'm still in blue. Let's go back in black. All right, cool. So this one is increasing opportunity costs. Increasing opportunity cost. All right. All right. Go on. You took all?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. Right. So this one is good Y. This one is good X. That is the origin. What we're gonna do? All right. Let me see. I had to bend my hand. Whoa! All that disappear same speed, boy. Okay. Let's not use undo. Let's just use that. All right, so that'll have to do. I know it's not the best curve in the world, but that'll have to do for now, right? Okay, so we need 3 points. So let's call this one point D. Point.
So yeah, put 3 points every time also.
All right, because if you only do a change from one point to the next, you're not really seeing that when you change a gain, you actually gain less, right? Imagine if we were only considering like the initial change there from y1 to y2. We wouldn't get to see that if we made a next change of the same quantity, we got less x's, right? So yeah, you need 2 changes, or at least that's how I'm going to explain it. All right, so let's say at point D, we were able to get, let's say, y1 and x1. At point E, we were able to get y2 and x2. And at point F, sorry, one sec. At point F, we were able to get y3 and x3. So if you look at this, the change here in y both times seems about the same, does it not?
Yeah.
About the same. But look at the change in x from the first one compared to the second one. Which one looks bigger? Does delta 1 look bigger or delta 2? Delta 2. So in this case here, if you give up the same amount and you continue to get more, you actually have decreasing opportunity costs. Because it comes like it's costing you less to get more or less to get the same amount. Right? So if you pay the same amount and you get more, that's a decreasing opportunity cost. All right, so this one could be decreasing opportunity cost. All right, okay, is that okay? Does anybody have any questions on that one? No? Joe, you okay with that one?
Yes.
All right, Joe, how about you?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So, what we have to do, as I said, with the aid of a diagram, explain, right? So, let me turn on my paragraph markers because I need to know where. All right, so from backspace. No, undo that. Okay. So, all right. So let me. I made a rookie mistake here, boy. I didn't give myself enough space. All right, so hold on. Let me go here.
So you usually have to write on the inside.
Right, but I didn't want to write as the whole thing. I wanted to type.
Oh.
Right.
You can't switch back to the.
Yeah, but the problem is you see where hold on, I know what to do. Let me just I have to select everything. Oh, I don't know what I do there, but it wasn't what I wanted. Draw that, select. All this stuff. Right, okay, cool. So what I want to do, let's come here in line with text wrapping. Okay, so above and below. All right. That didn't work. I can't group everything there. All right, hold on. Let me just. That didn't work. All right. Any technical difficulties threaten to disrupt the live. Okay, hold on. I know what to do. Well, that didn't work either. All right, so here we're going to do. When in doubt, jump out. All right, so from the above diagram, okay, so before we jump into the explanation, let's understand what we're going to explain, right? We had to explain the concept of increasing opportunity cost. How did we show that from the diagram? The initial point of production was where on this PPF?
A.
It was point A. At that point, we were getting Y1 of good Y and X1 of good X, right? So in the diagram, in the diagram above, right, we were initially at point A on the PPF, which gave us Y1 of good Y and X1 of good X. When we shifted from point A to point B and then point C, the following observations were made. Right. Now, this, by the way, there are shorter ways you could say this, right? I'm just, because I'm typing, I tend to be a bit more verbose in my explanations, right? So, of course, I'm pretty sure somebody could figure out how to say this more concisely, which is fine by me, right? But I like to express myself and get things out sometimes with a bit too many words to make sure people understand, right? So, in the above diagram, so let's just make sure that we understand what we're saying so far, right? So, in the above diagram, we were initially at point A, at which we were producing y1 of good y and x1 of good x. We then shifted from point A to point B, then point C. And what did we notice? The amount, the change in y that had to be, sorry, the change in y, in moving from point A to point B, the change in y gave us this change in x. But in moving from point B to point C, the same change in y produced a smaller change in x. Right? So in other words, we gave up the same amount to get less as we made the second change. So this illustrates increasing opportunity cost. All right? All right? The change in y from A to B and B to C was the same. However, the increase in x was less from B to C than from A to B. This essentially means that we gave up the same amount of good y in both instances, only to get a smaller change in x in the second instance than in the first. This illustrates the concept of increasing opportunity costs. All right, so once again, if you guys could shorten that anyhow, that's fine. Of course, it would probably start from a diagram, how to shorten that particular diagram, how to label it, sorry. All right, you might actually choose to use actual numbers as opposed to like y1, y2, and y3 and that kind of stuff, right? You could use actual numbers. Right, but just how I was accustomed to it back in the day, was we use letters to signify things. Okay, all right. Does anybody have any questions on that item? No? Okay. So let's see what else they're asking about here. Increasing opportunity cost, that's 6 marks. All right, an individual's disposable income has increased. The choice for the individual arises from the equation y is equal to c plus s. Explain these choices. All right, so what is, in this equation, what does y mean? Y is the symbol for income, right? What is c? There are 2 things you can do with your money. What are those 2 things that rational individuals would consider?
Spend and save.
Spend and save, right? When you spend on something, you consume. That's what the C stands for, right? So income, the amount of money you earn, is either spent via consumption or not spent. And if it is not spent, it is assumed to be saved, all right? So it's for 4 marks. So what you could do, I mean, sometimes if you want to try and bulk up your answers to make sure you get the marks, you can talk about disposable income. So disposable income refers to an individual's income after taxes have been paid, not so?
Yeah.
All right. So if an individual's disposable income rises, right, the choices according to the equation are C and S. Consumption, which means the person will buy necessities as well as wants, and savings. Right? In other words, savings, so they can either spend on these things or they can not spend. Any money not spent is assumed to be saved. All right, so let's talk about that. Right? So this is 1 part D. Let me just format some stuff here. pull this back and let's change this. Just continue. Set numbering value, right? I clicked U. All right. Why does it do that? All right. So disposable income is defined as income after tax. Right. The formula. Right, I like to do my formulas. Y is equal to C plus S. Means that income can either be spent on consumption, which is notated as C. Oops, don't want that. Right, or saved, which is notated as S. All right, so we could start there, and from there we can maybe go on to explain some of these things a bit more, or maybe examples and that kind of stuff. Because, like I said, sometimes if you're not sure exactly how to explain things, marks examples, right? Sometimes technical explanations, like textbook stuff, don't really come naturally to most of us. But if we understand the concept, which is very possible without necessarily memorizing a textbook or memorizing your notes, we can understand the concept and we can latch on to examples. And if we could connect the two, which example to which concept, we could get marks. All right. So, I mean, there are different ways we could go here to get those 4 marks. I think we have at least one in the defining of disposable income. It's not a half mark. And we have, what are you giving me this here for? Okay. And we probably have another one, or at least another half, by explaining the formula. Right? So, it said explain the choices. All right. So what we could do is we could give an example of consumption. We could give an example of savings, and I think we also should probably now how much space did they give you guys here? That looks like a paragraph, right? Yeah. So we probably want to use most of that space, right? Now it's not to say you have to always use every single line, right? It's quite possible. We've seen in math sometimes so they give us 3-4 lines, and all we realize was x equal to 1. Right, so, but I don't want to assume that the same thing happens here because it's the same CSEC body, but it's a different department testing this, right? Okay, so, right, money spent on consumption is spent on necessities such as, what are some necessities?
Food.
Right, food, rent, food, rent, and clothing, right? Clothing. Money spent on consumption can be, right? It should be spent on necessities such as food, rent, and clothing, and can also be spent on luxury items. What are some examples of luxury items?
Cars.
Such as, right, cars, mobile phones. All right, I'm okay with that. And one more, very quickly. Anything?
Then clothes could be a.
Yeah, and brand name or high-end clothing. I could agree with that. Right. So money spent on consumption is spent on necessities such as food, rent, and clothing, and can also be spent. Let me take out the paragraph markers to declutter this stuff. And can also be spent on luxury. So we've explained that one choice. All right, so now we have to explain savings. All right, so money saved. So I'll give you guys a second to catch up if you're jotting down something. All right. All right. So we talked about money spent. Money saved is money. Well, first of all, you can start very simply. Is any money not spent on consumption, right? Consumption. And usually when we think of savings, where do we put our money when we think of it? We could put it in banks or other financial institutions, or investment vehicles such as mutual funds and these things, or some people used to do and probably still do under the mattress, right, or in a shoebox under your bed or something,
Yeah.
right, and can be put into savings accounts at commercial banks or other investment vehicles such as mutual funds or the stock market, or can simply be put under the mattress. Right. How are we feeling so far? Right, simple enough.
Yeah.
Right. There's no absolute need to try and bust fancy adjectives or fancy wording. I mean, if that's your style, feel free, go ahead, because it shows like a slight interest in developing the way you express yourself. But when it comes down to it, simple and straightforward usually is the best thing. Right. So I think you could probably eke your 4 marks from this, but something is I'm basing this on my experience at Econ back when I was doing it, back when it was GCE stuff we were doing, right? And sorry, if it was for 4 marks, right? They say the disposable income has increased. So that there, unless you have to talk about that, it kind of seems out of context. You would just put that line there. So I would probably tack on like a sentence or two, just saying, okay, well, if an individual's disposable income has increased, it means that, and how can we tie that with what we talked about here? It means they could either put more to consumption, more to saving, or more to both. All right. So if an individual's disposable income has increased, right, he or she can either consume more, save more, or both. Did you all learn about a concept called the marginal propensity to consume or marginal propensity? Okay, so that's more of a near level thing. So that's where I didn't learn about it in Form, but I was in Form 6 for me, sorry. The propensity that one has for doing something is the degree to which they are inclined to do it, or how likely they are to do something. Right? So for example, if they put food in front of you and you're hungry, your propensity to eat might be kind of high. Right? If you are very tired and you have plenty of work to do, or your bed right there, your propensity to sleep will probably be high as well. Right? If, however, you're in Tobago after CXE done and somebody hand you an econ text and say, study some econ, your propensity to study will probably be very low, if not zero, right? Unless you were just genuinely interested in the subject, right? But since you guys didn't talk about that stuff at the Form 5 level, we're not going to make any reference. I just wanted to share that little tidbit with you, right? If you feel to fancy it up and fling it at them, you could say it depends on the individual's propensity for either. All right, okay. So I think we've, let me just save this document as well. File name 2019-05-28, Econ 2017, paper 2, 2017-05. More save options. Let's go here. Yeah, solutions. Cool. All right. Sorry, right. B. How about that? That works for me. All right. Let's go again. So that was 4 marks. I think we got the 4 marks. Distinguish between the term economies of scale and diseconomies of scale. 4 marks. So you get 2 marks for economies, 2 for diseconomies. Yeah, let me hear you. Look eager to answer.
Economies of scale, the advantages that a firm can accrue
All right.
from the growth of the business.
Correct. When they growth in size and scale.
Yeah.
In scale and scope, right?
This economies is like the disadvantages.
The disadvantages, exactly, right.
That's
So it's as simple as that. Economies of scale are the advantages that accrue to a firm or an entity when it grows in size and scale. Whereas diseconomies of scale are the disadvantages, right? or the cost increases that occur when a company grows in size and scale. Long story short. All right, let's jot that down and we could go from there, right? Sorry, question?
Oh.
I thought you had a question. I thought you were saying something.
So you can say that a company or a firm accrues?
Yeah. I mean,
Nah, it's the meaning of accrue.
yeah, well, in accounts, when we talk about accruals, we talk about like when you kind of cause something to, when you don't pay something and it's kind of building up,
Yeah.
right? So accrue means to kind of build up as well, right? So a company could build up or cause advantages to kind of come its way, all right? So economies of scale are advantages or cost savings that accrue to an entity or a firm or a company when it grows in size and scale. That sounds like a no. Okay, right? Whereas diseconomies of scale are disadvantages. Let's keep it kind of consistent, right? Disadvantages or cost increases. Let's get it open. Let's see what it is. To a firm. Hey, Lars. Oh, hey, good morning. Yeah, we're just going through 2017 to kind of warm up, and then we'll tackle 2018 after lunch, right? We just on question 2. We just finished question 1 not too long ago, so we could go back and take a look if you need. Right? We had just to recap real quick. Yeah, I think I gave you guys these things already. So yeah, we had a little diagram. So I drew a diagram and I couldn't get to access writing below here, so I just went on to our next page. Yes, it does not doesn't illustrate my, or it illustrates my word skills in a very bad light. Oh, thank you very much. Right. As it grows in size. And scale. Yeah. Amy messaged me like 3 o'clock this morning that she was coming. I'm like, well, if you're up at 3, I don't think you're making it for 10.
She's up.
Oh, she's up?
Her driver couldn't drop her, so she said she might come.
Afternoon? Alright, cool, yeah. I think Bianca coming after lunch too.
Brianna? Or is she-
Bianca.
Oh, Bianca.
Yeah. I didn't hear from Brianna.
She has IT today.
Oh, okay.
so-
Yeah, they might probably catch it later if anything. Yeah. I was considering doing a 6 to 8:30, but then I forgot I put an art math makeup class there because this is a holiday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind doing a third session but online. I believe this is Indian arrival day. Yeah. So I have some curry to eat. Boss up short and roti and thing. Alright, cool. Where were we? No, let's change that. Set numbering value. Cool. Let's pull this back. Alright. Okay, what was the second thing?
One example of a diseconomy of scale.
Sorry, what is this? Okay, sorry, I'll take that back after. Alright, so let me hear you guys. What's an example of a diseconomy of scale?
Loss of managerial control.
Uh-huh.
Can I be like increasing cost of production as it increases in size?
I agree with that. One example is, so what we're going to do, it says 1, but we're going to list a bunch of them, right? Now, did it say explain? State. It just says state, right? So all we have to do is just list it, right? Write it out. So you said loss of managerial control. Dominic, you said increases in cost of production.
Yeah.
Right? Increases in costs of production due to diminishing returns. Now, diminishing returns is a short run feature. You guys know about that? The law of diminishing returns? No?
Wait.
I've heard it before.
Alright. Uh-huh.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah, because to me that was really early in econ, so I kind of remember it. What it is? Alright. The law of diminishing returns, okay, I'll say the fancy way first, right? It says that as more in the short term, so you guys might have a short run and long run, right?
Yeah.
So in the short run, you have a fixed factor. A fixed factor is a factor whose quantity cannot be increased in the short run, correct? as you keep adding variable factors to the fixed factor, eventually the fixed factor becomes overloaded to the point where you start to see less and less output added as you keep adding variable factors, right? The marginal product drops. You guys know that term, marginal product, average product, right? A simple example, all right, when in our football matches, how many men on the field? Per side? 11 aside, right? Suppose you added 5 more men aside. It would be a little too crowded, right? Right, yeah, exactly. If you keep adding people that like okay, do you follow any sports at all or what? No, okay, cool, don't worry. Well, I guess if they kept adding Jonas Brothers, I don't know. If that multiple Justin Biebers, I don't know. Well, there are too many people on our track. I mean, one example that I was one thing that could be seen as an example is some people had a criticism of Endgame. If anybody hasn't seen Endgame yet, I apologize. Just mute this part for like 2 minutes, right? Cool. So
I didn't see Endgame.
you didn't see Endgame yet? Alright, okay. You saw Infinity War?
So I don't watch anything.
You plan on watching it?
No.
No, okay. Alright, let's put it this way. They had about at least 14, 16 characters to kind of keep track of, right? Or Game of Thrones. Anybody watch Game of Thrones? They're like 30 something characters, right? So if you keep adding characters onto this thing, eventually you don't get to spend enough time with any one particular set, right? But thankfully, I mean, they handle it very well enough with that. Like, for example, Infinity War was 2 hours and 35 minutes? And it didn't feel so, right? It felt like every time they shifted scene, okay, I'm now interested, okay, I was running when I got back to them. But if it was a next movie, like I've seen long movies before, and I was bored out of my skull, right? So, was that? Yeah, yeah. And ready to drop asleep, all kind of drama. Anyhow, sorry. So, the law of diminishing return states that if you, in the short run, if you keep adding variable factors to the fixed factor will become overloaded. And every time you add one more variable factor, production will actually drop, right? Production will increase initially.
Because it's too much to keep up with.
It's too much, yeah, correct. Right, so due to diminishing returns.
Here's your answer for 1B.
1 part D?
Yeah.
Well, this should say 1 part D, by the way. Yeah, I had to change the page because I really couldn't figure out how to navigate with that diagram. I didn't leave enough room. Normally, I use the white space to help myself overcome that problem. I just did not do it then. So I'll just probably have to combine the documents later. Alright, so we started talking about disposable income, what it was. We explained the formula, y is C plus S, and I kind of went overboard because I wasn't sure how to get 4 marks from just that. Because they said explain the formula. And then my thing was the first sentence they had in the question was a person's disposable income has increased. And then they explain the choices. So like, well, my thing was I wanted to tie it back to if your disposable income increases, what are your choices?
Yeah.
So if you only have 2 choices according to the formula, the 2 things could happen. Either you could increase consumption, increase savings, or you could do both. Because you can't do neither. Because once your money goes up, it has to go somewhere. It either has to be saved or spent if the individual is a rational person. All right. So let's go back here now. All right. Okay, so loss of managerial control, increases in cost of production due to diminishing returns. Now, one way you could attack this is that I think diminishing returns is a short run thing, but isn't economies of scale long run? Since you increase it? Yeah. Okay. So increases in cost of production. Okay, any other diseconomies that anyone can think of?
For communication, like we do because if it gets like not work or something.
I agree, right? Poor communication, which can lead to, what's one thing that poor communication can lead to?
Lack of motivation from workers.
Lack of motivation. All right, so we have 1, 2, 3. Anybody come with one more? Any other diseconomies? No? All right. Okay, let's leave that one as it is for now. All right, so what we'll do, all right, so economies of scale, economies. Okay, cool. Let's just take a quick look at the other part of the question. Discuss one advantage and one disadvantage of the division of labor. 6 marks, boy. So it's 3 marks for the advantage, 3 marks for the disadvantage.
So one advantage could be an increase in overall production, but I don't know how to expand that.
Yeah, for 3 marks?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's just talk very generally.
I mean, like, if you like an increase in production in that certain departments in which you specialize in, because they divide the labor into like parts.
Right. So first of all, let's establish what division of labor is, right?
Yeah.
So the division of labor is the breaking up of a larger task into many smaller pieces.
Right.
And then after you do that, you allow people to focus on one specific task, which is specialization.
Right.
So division of labor facilitates specialization, right? So you said that it would increase output.
Increase
Right.
output.
Explain to me why you think that is so.
Because, like we said, they specialize in that certain area.
Right.
So once you like specialize in that, you know, it's just you're bound to.
You're bound to? Yeah, let me hear you. Good try. You're almost there.
Work may be done quicker.
Work may be done quicker. All right. Because of what? Division of labor and specialization.
Yes,
Yeah.
All right.
And a disadvantage. It may become boring as people will be seeing it over and over.
Okay, I like that one. All right. Anybody else? Anything else?
Or they, like, and a disadvantage could be like they become too specialized at something that they, you know, they're not.
It could set them up as a disadvantage because if they were to lose their job, that's all that they know how to do.
Yeah.
Right.
So when they become interdependent. So like if one part shuts down, the whole thing shuts down.
Yeah.
If you're like making like lots of loads and one person is capping them, if they can't do it.
Yeah, then the whole line shuts down. Yeah, unless you structure it in such a way that it is not that problem is not dealt with, then that could be a serious issue. If one part of the assembly line breaks down, the entire thing has to stop. All right. Okay, I like what I hear. So now we have to figure out how to explain that for 3 marks. Well, that's not that bad actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, right? So one advantage of division labor is that output can increase due to specialization. All right. Now that's probably just worth 1 mark. We have to go a bit deeper.
Yeah, I didn't know how to.
Right. So when you specialize on something, right?
Yeah.
You focus your energies on that one particular task, and usually. What's that, sorry?
Oh, we just spoke.
Yeah. Right. And when you focus your energies on one specific task, with proper guidance, do you usually get better, get worse, or stay the same?
Get better.
You usually get better at it. So when you get better at something, you're able to do it either more quickly with less errors, and maybe, more quickly with less errors and probably better quality too. So that's why output will rise, right? So
That's the advantage also.
advantage, yes, right? This facilitates the workers becoming, you can simply put more skilled in their assigned task, and this results in quicker output that may be of a higher quality, right? All right, output can increase due to specialization. This facilitates, the workers becoming more skilled in their assigned task. All right. I feel like I'm missing something there. Specialization facilities workers. Yes, I think that's sufficient. I mean, you could go a bit extra and say, well, because workers have one task, they're able to focus their energies and become better at that task, right? So, but I feel like that might be a little too extra for what you guys have to write. But I'm gonna put it nonetheless, right? So workers become better at a task because they focus.
So some more better quality.
Yeah. If you continue to practice what it is you're doing, you don't just become faster, or at least that's the hope. The hope is you become better at it in terms of quality. Like if you keep on practicing economy writing and you learn new words and new structures, the quality of your writing improves, right? But that's when you spend more time and you focus on it, right? So workers become better at a task because they focus their energies on that single task. And attention. Attention is very important on that single task. Hey Nicholas, good morning. You come to learn econ? All right, well, I hope you don't end up in the exam tomorrow if you're not supposed to be there, right? Yeah. Yeah, I know plenty of people doing IT, so it's only like 5 people, but I'm happy to have 5 people. Hello. Alright, so let's do that, and let's do that. Alright, so does anybody have any questions or anything to add on the advantage?
Yeah.
No? Alright, cool. So let's talk about disadvantage. Right, so I had some good disadvantages just now. So one disadvantage of division of labor is that, well, we put a couple because you guys have good ones, right?
Yeah.
Is that workers, right, can become bored because
I'm just saying the work becomes dull and monotonous.
I was not going to say, well, I was going to put monotony, yes, right? And because the work becomes dull and monotonous, boy. All right, yeah, it's just repetitive. Well, as well, are completely wrong. Dull and monotonous, all right? Dull and monotonous. What happens when what happens to their interest in their task? Therefore,
Yeah, they lose interest.
they lose interest, and what?
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, they could. If they lose interest, they might lose focus. Losing focus means they.
Stop trying.
Right. Correct. So their efforts become lax, and the quality of their output goes down. Quality and quantity of the output goes down. Right. 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 They can then lose focus, which may lead to a drop. Oh geez, sorry, 1 second. Hello. Okay. All right. Oh, lovely. Thank you very much. Okay. All right. Yes. Okay. Oh, wait, what did I do? Oh, right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. True. Okay. Cool. Yes. Okay. Cool. Thank you. Bye. All right. Sorry, guys. Right, so one disadvantage of division of labor is that workers can become bored because the work becomes dull and monotonous. They can lose focus, which may lead to a drop in the quality and quantity of their output over time. All right. Another disadvantage is that unless workers are trained in multiple tasks, if one part of the production chain, what would you guys want to use? I don't want to use falls apart. So if one part of it what? Shuts down. All right, shuts down, then the entire production chain shuts down. And of course, what happens then? There is no output. Of course, there is no output. All right. Yeah, I think that's sufficient for 3 marks. Yeah, I think so. Anybody want to add anything to that? Yeah, I agree. Okay, let's take a look at another part of it. D. Explain why over time industries tend to become more capital intensive. That's a nice question. So first of all, what does capital intensive mean?
Machinery and things.
There's a greater proportion of physical capital as opposed to human labor used in the production process. All right, so let's start by saying that, right? So capital intensive, sorry, I did spell that right, intensive production, I spelled that completely wrong. All right, processes use more physical capital, machinery, and automation.
So let's say let's use more machinery. No, let's use machinery and don't put like more physical.
No, that's fine. Use more machinery.
What chance is say let's use machinery rather than human.
Well, use more machinery relative to what as the whole thing?
No, let's use machinery alone.
Oh, you mean if an entity has basically zero human resources?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, they actually something called a lights out factory in Japan that is totally automated, and a human comes in once in a while just to check to make sure everything runs all right, and then that's it.
Alright.
So it produces like 24/7.
But it's not common.
Not as common now as it will be in the future,
Yeah.
right? Relative more for example than human resources. Capital intensive production uses more physical capital. All right, so we have to explain why over time industries tend to become more capital intensive.
So,
Let me hear you.
because machinery is more efficient and over time it becomes cheaper as they don't have to pay what's the thing?
You have to pay wages and salaries.
Well,
Yeah.
overtime for the employees.
Oh, I mean actual overtime, not like over the period of time, as in overtime.
Well, both, I don't know.
Both. Okay. All right. So you're saying that over the course of a period of time, the amount of money spent on human resources, of course, balloons because people have increasing needs and wants, and they want increases in salary, increases in wages. Whereas machines don't have that. You have maintenance,
They
right?
can work more hours and
They can work more hours.
more efficient.
Exactly, more efficient. That's a good word there, right? More efficiently, right? And we just talked about the lights out factories work 24/7 most of the time, right? Human beings can't work that for very long periods of time unless they have some sort of issue, right?
When you say like in the long run, it's better to use machinery than it's like
Um,
always result.
I would say that it depends. Sorry, it depends on the industry, but yeah, which is like kind of condemning us to not have any work. But I'm pretty sure we can find a higher purpose. Cool. Anyhow, so yes, I would say over time it makes more sense to automate things because it gets done faster. There's less chance for human error, which is a big thing. And the faster things get done, the better they get done, the quicker we get profit. Long story short. And yeah, we don't have to manage workers and motivate them if it's just machines. You just have to make sure they're running properly. So you have basically no labor disputes, no strike action.
But then people don't have jobs.
Right. So people have to find things to do. I think we could find things to do, eh? We just don't want to do some of the things that they are to do.
Well, there
some
are
of
some
these
things
things,
that machines can't do.
Well, they're saying that, for example, social interactions, for example, stuff like teaching might be one of the last things to go, right? But as AI, which is artificial intelligence, develops, and you have stuff like deep learning and machine learning, right? We could probably eventually see things that we've seen in movies. Anybody ever saw what was this one with Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence when they were lost on the spaceship and they woke up? And they had this bartender that was a robot, but he was making conversation, or like even now with Siri, I mean, I don't know the full extent. Nicholas boosted it's costly, especially if it's a small business. I agree, right?
So, I was reading something the other day, and they said that one of the last jobs to go would be prostitution also. Because
I don't know about that one. I haven't looked into an
I
article.
find making a sense on it also.
Yeah. Well, once again, that is a human interaction process, right? And
Because robots can't do that also.
you'd be surprised. Anyhow, let me not go down that avenue right now. That's a whole different discussion for a different time. Okay, so sorry, let's get back on track. Let's answer the question that was asked. The question that was asked is explain why over time industries tend to become more capital intensive, right? So because over time, industries, right, tend to become more capital intensive because one, over time, what happens to industries? Do they grow or do they stay the same size? They grow. And to keep up with the increasing demand or production requirements, which makes more sense, to hire more people or to get machines to do the job of more? Right. Because as industries grow, the production demands grow as well, and machines can be more capable and efficient of meeting these increased production requirements. All right, so we talked about the growth of the industry. We said long run wise, it will be more cost effective because wages tend to increase over time because people have increasing needs, right? Machinery is also more cost effective in the long run because it doesn't have increasing needs and wants like people, which inflate the wage cost, the wage cost of the entity. So in other words, I mean, yeah, like Nicholas said in the live, it's a very financially demanding thing to do, to go capital intensive. But once you start it, the cost is heavy upfront. It's a high upfront cost. But once you start it and you have your maintenance going, eventually there'll come a time where the cost will decrease past what the wages would have been. And you just have to kind of keep it going. And yeah, eventually you're going to have to replace some machines. But like I said, if you keep your maintenance going, the machines could last long. And according to how well you manage it, they can last long enough to give you sufficient profit to replace them. So even though that cost might also be relatively high as well. Actually, no, that's not what I want to talk about. What has happened to the cost of certain pieces of technology as time has gone on? Increased or decreased? They've decreased, right? Almost everybody, I mean, okay, let me rephrase that. It is more affordable now than it was back in the day to have a computer in your home or multiple computers now, right? A tablet, these things put computing power in the hands of people without them having to have a huge upfront cost. You could even go to cloud computing. You don't have to have physical memory drives and taking up space and costing you money, right? Dropbox, what is OneDrive, Google Drive, all these things they're not free, but they don't cost you anything in terms of space. You just have to have a credit card and pay for it, right? So, right, and the cost of technology has decreased over time, so its cost has decreased. What about the capability? Is it more or less capable now? Oh. Right? While its capabilities have increased, right? Whereas with humans, I mean, there's a guy called Tom Bilyeu who founded a company called Quest Nutrition, and his motto is that human potential is nearly limitless. And that's something I believe as well, but you have to be willing to put in the work, right? But of course, we will reach a point where the machines surpass us. I mean, I've seen videos on YouTube where there are humanoid robots that can do flips and jump and run on these things, eh? And all I can think of is, okay, here we come, Terminator. You know, so I mean, yeah, right now we have Olympics and we are running, and Usain Bolt is one of the fastest people ever. But eventually, I mean, robots could get there if they can't get there already. So we kind of making ourselves obsolete. All right. Okay. All right. So I think we're okay with that piece. Anybody want to add anything? No. All right. Cool. All right. So that was question 2. All right. Question 3. All right. So let's take a look at question 3 and see if we could make some headway there. Maybe question 3 and question 4. All right, we did start a bit late, so we mightn't get to all questions. Define each of the following terms: exchange rate devaluation, floating exchange rate. List one protectionist measure used by countries to restrict trade. So let's start with the first one: exchange rate devaluation.
Exchange rate devaluation is when the value of your country's exchange rate decreases.
All right, so
I have something else.
You have something else. Okay, what is something else you have? So exchange rate devaluation. All right, so is. All right, so Jordan, just repeat what you said, just for the record.
I said that exchange rate devaluation is when your country's value of exchange rate decreases.
Is where the exchange rate decreases.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Jay, what do you have to add to that?
Exchange rate devaluation is a downward movement of exchange rate. Can also mean our country's currency is devaluated or decreased.
All right. I would guard against trying to use the same word in the definition because it could kind of make it seem like it might make it seem like you're not sure though. Even if when it's decreased, right? Decrease is a simple word to use there. All right. So let's understand first of all. So you guys are saying correct things. Want to make sure you'll understand, right? So let's say right now, Trinidad and Tobago. Let's just assume it's 7 TT to 1 US. If our exchange rate devalued relative to the US dollar, what would happen to, what would that look like? You could either tell me in terms of the actual exchange rate, like give me new figures, or you could give me an example of something.
So like it would be more,
it
would be more TT dollars.
More TT dollars to buy 1 US. So for example, it might be $7.50 to 1 or $8 or $10 to 1, right? Basically, when a country's exchange rate is devalued, this means that it now becomes more expensive to buy foreign exchange. But there's devaluation and there's depreciation. Both of them have a similarity in that it now becomes more expensive for one country's currency to buy another country's currency. But the reason behind that change is a major difference. You have two types. So if we just take a hint from the next part here where it says floating exchange rate. What's the other type of exchange? If it's not floating, it's constant or fixed or managed, right? So you can have a fixed exchange rate or a floating exchange rate. With a floating exchange rate, what determines the fluctuations? Demand and supply, right? It's basically the price of our money on the open market, on the open foreign exchange market. Whereas with a fixed exchange rate, who or what determines the movements and the fluctuations? The government. So exchange rate devaluation is where the government decides to decrease the value of its country's currency, which essentially makes it more expensive for that country to buy foreign goods. Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let me say it again.
Nah.
Well, I'm gonna type it anyway, right? So, is where the government of the country decreases the value of the country's currency relative to other countries. In other words, it makes buying foreign goods more expensive. All right, so that sounds like a disadvantage. Can anybody tell me why that might be an advantage though?
Because it restricts trade and imports coming into the country.
Okay, it could decrease the level of imports, which could maybe help us to save foreign exchange, which could be necessary because we may be spending on unnecessary items, so it might cut back expenditure to necessities. Gio, you were saying something?
Wait, so what we need to say is it will decrease imports?
That's what he was saying. He said it could have that effect, right? On the other hand, I mean, if all of the imports right now are necessary, for example, if it's a lot of goods for hospitals, if it's stuff like vaccines or insulin for diabetics,
then they would never.
you're basically just making healthcare more expensive.
So that's a question they could have, like why would devaluation be an advantage?
Yeah. All right. So if it makes other countries' currency more expensive for us, what about our currency to them?
Well, it'll make it better.
It'll make it cheaper. And what happens when the price of something goes down?
The
They demand more. Correct. So
exports will increase.
if we have goods to offer to the open market, to international trade, it makes it cheaper for them. So they could buy more, assuming that they have. I mean, once again, all these extra assumptions, right?
Yeah.
So was it 2-word phrase you could stick in there to make all other assumptions constant? Ceteris paribus, right? So holding all other factors constant. So exchange rate devaluation is where the government of a country decreases the value of the country's currency relative to other countries' own. other countries. Right, good. In other words, it makes buying foreign goods more expensive. How many marks was it? That was just 2 marks? Yeah. If you want, you could give an example, right? For example, going from TT, let's say 7.00 to US dollar 1.00 to, let's say, TT dollar 8.00 to US dollar 1.00. Yeah, I think that's sufficient. I'm just put a comma here so these blue lines don't annoy me. Okay, and what is a floating exchange? So the first thing asks what is exchange rate devaluation, and then what is a floating exchange rate?
As the country's exchange rate value fluctuates. Due to a change in the country's demand and supply.
Right. So the price of the country's currency, its foreign exchange rate, is determined by the open market forces, which is demand and supply. Right. So let's write that. So, right, a floating, right, a floating exchange rate. Take your time, Chris. Right. Exchange rate is one where the price of a country's currency is determined by the market forces of demand and supply. Right? So now you have little cheats here in terms of floats, because usually it's never actually a perfect float. Our currency is supposed to be a floating currency. They floated dollar back in 93 or 95. Somewhere thereabouts, because our currency used to be 5 to 1, It used to be 5 to 1 US. And then when they floated it, they went to about 620 something, 630 something. And it was at 630 something for a long time. But what they did is they call it a managed float or a dirty float. So basically what happens is, if they find, for example, too much TT is buying US, it means the supply of US is falling relative to TT. So what the government would do is that they would flood the market or put more US on the market to raise the supply of US relative to TT. So it was never a true float, it was a managed float. But that's not what they're asking for here, but I'm just giving you guys a little bit of information. Alright. Okay, everybody okay with those 2 items?
Yes, sir.
Any questions? No? Alright. Let's take a look at part B. Part B is asking, list one protectionist measure used by countries to restrict trade.
An import quota.
Right, so protectionist measures include, so you said tariffs, so you said lists, right? Tariffs.
Subsidies.
So tariffs on imports, right?
Yeah.
So you said subsidies, but subsidies to whom? So a subsidies where government pays money to an entity or body, right? Who would the government pay money to?
People who they want to produce.
Right, to local businesses, right? Subsidies to, those are government subsidies.
So embargo to be one?
Yeah. Government subsidies to local companies. So tariffs, subsidies, somebody said embargo, quotas. What did they ask us in A part 1 just now?
For the exchange.
On devaluation?
Yeah.
So they could do that. They could devalue the exchange and say, hey, alright, all I want to buy foreign goods, take a 10 to 1 in your deal now. Alright? So deliberate devaluations. Well, maybe not deliberate, because if it's a devaluation, it has to be deliberate. Yeah. So devaluations in the exchange rate, etc. Anybody can think of anything else they want to add to that list, or are we okay with that? Okay? Alright. I'm fine with it too. As I said, 1. And we get about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, we have 2 more big ones here. Discuss 2 factors that can, sorry, I didn't put it up on the board for those to see. Alright. Discuss 2 factors that can influence the level of the exchange rate in a country. How many marks? 6 marks? Okay, so 2 factors. Yeah, of course, right? 6 marks, that's 3 marks each. All right, so what influences the level of the exchange rate? So domestic prices versus foreign prices. So explain, let's explain. What is that, or discuss?
If like if you want to buy something like foreign price is cheaper than the domestic price, you're gonna import it.
Right, so if
instead of buying.
correct. If we have, like, for example, cereal made locally, and they have cereals made from in the States or whatever, we import them, and they go in the grocery, and the local cereal is more expensive than the foreign cereal, a rational consumer would probably buy the foreign one if it's cheaper, right? So that could influence the exchange over time, because if we keep demanding more imports relative to locally produced things, it will decrease the supply of the foreign, it will increase the demand for foreign currency, which will drive the price.
So domestic could be like, what already said was
inflation rates, yes.
So domestic could be like when you're buying goods locally, that increases profits for people locally, so you buy from imports, as much imports.
Correct, yeah. All right, so local prices.
So what was saying was foreign?
Well, she was saying foreign versus local. She was comparing both of them.
So if local is lower than foreign, then people demand more local.
A rational consumer should do that, right? Rational consumers are ones that seek to maximize the satisfaction. Well, it could, yes. Remember, there are lots of factors in play. So if we assume it's just that, then yes, over time that could happen. Right? Somebody on the line was saying inflation rates. So yeah, inflation rates would basically drive up prices. So if our local level of inflation is higher than the foreign one, and our goods are rising in price relative to the foreign one, right? So let's say, for example, same thing with the cereal. Let's say the cereal was let's say $40 a box. Actually, that's how much I pay for my opening squares. And let's say the local produced one wasn't tasting that good, but it was $10 a box. So I could get 4 boxes of the local one for the price of 1, right? Foreign one. But let's say inflation started to creep in, and eventually the price of the local one went to 40. I'm like, well, now it don't make a difference. I can buy the foreign one, all right? So inflation could cause that, right? But the what you call it, the similarity we see in there is that it has to do with the prices of the goods, right? What else could influence the level of the exchange in the country, boy? Domestic income levels. So you're saying if people, in times where you have a rise in income, people might buy more foreign goods or the local goods, because foreign goods are assumed to be fancier, luxury. Okay.
If their income is decreasing, they probably buy
local goods. I agree. Very good.
So that's my third reason now.
Third one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Income.
Yeah. I'm trying to be careful how I phrase this one. Think about what's going on in our neighbor to our west, in Venezuela. What's going on there? Civil uprising, these things, right? What do you think might be happening to their foreign exchange rate? Do you think it's in high demand? No, probably not. So I think civil unrest. What about? I know a couple of years ago, or even happening all now. One of the biggest things up in the east was going on in Syria, right? There was a civil war, right? So, I mean that is still kind of civil unrest, but it started because of drought and famine. So weather conditions could play up, but that's affecting production. So I guess you could say production levels. I haven't thought about these things in a long time, but it's fun. All right. All right, so let's jot down some stuff here, right? So 2 factors that can influence the level of the exchange rate. So one factor that can influence the level of the exchange rate in a country is I want to see the level of, right? So is the difference in the prices of foreign and local goods, right? If local goods are cheaper and consumers are rational, then it is cheaper than foreign goods. So then it is likely that they will demand more local goods, local than foreign goods, which may help the exchange rate. Sorry, let me just respond to that message very quickly here. Someone is asking if it's Cape Econ or CSEC. We'll just double tap and double tap. The exchange rate to appreciate. The reverse is true. The reverse can be true as well, right? So what I mean by that is that if the prices of foreign goods were lower than the price of local goods, people might buy more foreign goods than local goods, and hence it would put a strain on the exchange rate. Right? I don't want to type all that up because I think like that you have enough room for that. And what's the other factor? Right? Another factor is inflation rates. Right? If the local rate of inflation, but see that kind of ties in a bit too closely to this because it basically affects the same variable, which is price. But I mean, you shouldn't really discount it. It does have an effect. So inflation could affect foreign exchange. Inflation rates, right? So, okay, so if local inflation rates, inflation rates cause local goods, cause the price of local goods to increase relative to foreign goods, then consumers might buy more foreign goods than local, right? This can, hold on, put a comma. This can put a strain on the exchange rate, causing it to depreciate. Oh. Anybody have anything they want to add here? This is mainly talking about floating exchange rates. So what about if it was a fixed exchange rate? The only factor really determining is the government. But I mean, when the government would act either to further their policy or in reaction to some change in consumer demand, putting a strain on some part of their policy or some part of the economy. Okay. All right. Let's take a. All right, I'll give you guys a minute. We'll take a read of another part of the question shortly. All right. We could probably push it about. Or did anybody have to order lunch? Okay, good. Because it's a little late to do that now. It might take an hour, 1 o'clock. Next, yes. Indeed, Nicholas. Next question. All right, let's go. Currently in the school waiting for paper 1. All right, cough drop. Well, good luck. I hear paper 2 was food.
That's
IT, yeah. So Caribbean has a fixed exchange rate and is currently facing a serious balance of payments problem. Caribbean usually exports a variety of goods and services. However, a hurricane destroyed a major export crop, resulting in a significant reduction in net exports, leading to disequilibrium in the balance of payments. All right. State the name of the type of account in the balance of payments that shows a reduction in net exports. Alright, so that's part of it, right? You said? Right, so the balance of payments has 3 sections, right? The current account, capital account, and official financing. The current account shows movements of goods and services. The visible account on the current account shows movements in goods. The invisible account shows the movements in services also. And the capital account shows movements in IPDs, interest, profits, and dividends, right? Like investments and returns on investments and that kind of stuff. All right?
That way, like gifts and grants.
Gifts and grants, correct. Okay, so the name of the type of account in the bill that shows the reduction in net exports. So, do you think, so we have capital and current. So, sorry, current and capital. So the current is the goods and services, capital is the interest, profits, dividends, gifts and what, grants? All right. Yeah, no props. So, which one do you guys think would be the one to show net exports? Current or capital? Current account. I agree. All right, so let's go there. All right, so let's go to part D, part 1. Let's pull that back a little bit. All right, so the current account is that part of the balance of OG, right? Payments that shows the reduction in net exports. Okay. Part 2. Explain how devaluation can correct the disequilibrium in Caribville's balance of payments. Okay, so a disequilibrium in your balance of payments means what, by the way? When the balance of payments is supposed to balance, so the money coming in is supposed to equal the money going out. So a disequilibrium is where the money coming in and money coming out are not equal, right? Right, so in this particular case, we could probably say, so
it's to be a measure how to reduce a deficit.
you could take it from that perspective, I agree, because that's the context in the question, right? So a disequilibrium means where your exports not equal to the imports, right? So, right, the hurricane destroyed a major export crop, resulting in significant, right? So how can devaluation correct the disequilibrium? So what would devaluation do, essentially?
It would decrease the value of the exchange rate.
Correct. It would decrease the value of our exchange rate, and what effect would that have on imports or exports, or both, for a matter of fact?
Imports will decrease.
Why?
Because the amount you have to buy will be more than
it's more expensive.
Yeah, more expensive.
Okay. So assuming they're not vital necessities, we will have to pay more for it, and rational consumers will not pay more money if there's an alternative, right? And what about
exports can increase because the price of foreign countries are to pay less for the local dollar.
Right. So what we're saying basically is that we've made our exports cheaper, which can increase demand for them on the open market, and we've made imports more expensive locally, which might decrease demand for it. And doing so would hopefully cause the inflow of foreign exchange to exceed the outflow, which will hopefully rectify the balance of payments. Yeah. Okay, cool. So a devaluation of the exchange rate will essentially make make imports more expensive and exports cheapers, right? The hope is that this will cause an increase in the latter, which is exports, and a decrease in the former, right? Which in turn will lead to an increase in the inflow of foreign exchange and a decrease in the outflow of same. right? Over time, this is likely to help rectify the balance of payments disequilibrium.
The next one.
Yeah, we are 12 o'clock, but we'll go to about 12:15 because we started a bit late. And I want
So
to.
discuss it,
Uh-huh.
In the inflow
Uh-huh.
of foreign exchange.
Oh, sorry. Yes, thank you. Right. Right. So a devaluation of the exchange rate will essentially make imports more expensive and exports cheaper. How? The hope is that this will cause an increase in the latter and a decrease in the former. So an increase in exports and a decrease in imports, which would in turn lead to an increase in the inflow of foreign exchange and a decrease in the outflow of foreign exchange. And over time, this is likely to help rectify the balance of payments disequilibrium, because you're bringing in more foreign exchange and you're selling out, right? You are earning more money than you are spending. The lights dip there.
Sir,
Uh-huh.
who is in charge of these decisions in our countries?
What's that word?
Like decisions like that, to reduce
The government.
no, but like,
Uh-huh.
Yeah, like a minister.
Well, you have ministers with different portfolios. So in our country, who's in charge? Well, you have a Ministry of Trade and Commerce.
which is there a minister of that, being minister of trade and commerce?
Yeah, you have a specific person. But I mean, that type of decision would probably be taken in consideration Minister of Finance.
Right.
Right.
Who's minister of finance?
Stuart, isn't it Stuart Young? I'm probably embarrassing myself on YouTube, so not knowing who a minister is, boy.
So imagine the what's in new guy come and ask you.
Yeah, boy, yeah. If what he named, boy, Daniel, okay, so who is the current minister of finance?
And you get put out.
Like, give it a try. Take a guess now, man. Anyhow, what you gonna do, right? Instead of what you know, what you gonna do? All right, small thing. Let's go again. So, question 4. Define each of the following terms: economic growth, economic development. State one measure of economic growth. All right, so economic growth. So growth implies increase, not so?
Yeah.
So what is increasing?
National income.
All right, is the real increase in national income over time. Also, can also be considered as the increase in the productive capacity of a country over time.
And that's the same as saying the overall increase in GDP.
Right. Also, right, the increase in GDP, not just GDP, but GDP per capita over time. Right? GDP per capita means the increase in the amount of wealth each person has on average over time. Right? I remember GDP is measured in 3 ways: OER, output, expenditure, and revenue. Right? So I covered a couple of bases here, right? So if you're talking about the increase in the productive capacity of a country over time, that's the output part of it. Right? The national income and the GDP, talking about the revenue part of it. The expenditure part, well, you can say that too. Economic development. So normally a lot of people confuse these two things and they're the same thing. Right? So so you guys don't have quantity and quality, right? Economic growth is the quantitative measure of the standard of living. How much money people make, because we assume money buys things we need and fuels enjoyment and these things. So that's quantity, that's a quantitative measure. Whereas economic development is the qualitative measure, right? And we're talking about stuff like the general standard of living in the countries, for such as the rate of the quality of healthcare, the quality and availability of education, the crime level in the country.
So what you said, something with OE.
OER? OER stands for Output, Expenditure, and Revenue, which is how we can, 3 ways of measuring GDP.
That could be with 3 ways of measuring economic growth as well.
They have that, they
So
actually
we have one measure.
define each of the following terms. Yeah, well, you could.
So we do have no in next policy. State one measure of economic growth.
The last one.
Oh, in part B. Okay. We'll come to that. Almost there. All right. So economic development is the quality. The increase or the improvement. Let's put improvement in the quality of life or standard of living in our country over time. Right, so I guess if you want how many lines, right? This can be measured by the such things as the quality and access to healthcare, education, water, electricity, well, basically public and merit goods, which is what healthcare and education are. Healthcare, and of access to capital, and of the access, quality and access of, what was the one? I had it just now. Okay, cool. Okay, we're going again. So that's probably okay. So state one measure of economics. So one measure of economic growth is, well, like I said, we have 3 ways to measure: output, expenditure, and revenue. So you can measure output. You can measure the increase in output over time. You can measure the increase in expenditure over time, revenue. So GDP, right? Isn't it? GDP is the basic one, also.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, cool.
So one last time, is the first thing I'll say?
Was that the OER?
Yeah.
OER stands for output, expenditure, and revenue. And those are the 3 ways that we measure, or we try to calculate GDP. So to measure economic growth, we have to measure the increases in GDP. One measure of economic growth is the increase in the level of output or expenditure or revenue. Okay. You could also say also you could look at, one could examine the level of personal, or the growth in the level of personal income, right? I want to say the access to investment capital, but I feel like that's coming out of nowhere. I feel like that's more of a measure of development. Yeah, okay. So I see in our pattern here in the marks first. So it's like they're asking for a couple of definitions first. 2 marks, 2 marks, and a 1 mark. So that's the 5, and then they're asking for a big one, a big 6-mark one, and a smaller 4-mark one. Alright, okay, so discuss 2 factors that contribute to an economy's recession. So what is a recession?
Period of
That's like a decrease in economic growth.
Correct. So recession is where a country's economy.
So then they give you a period of depression.
Well, a depression is an extended recession. So they are a bit interlinked, but chicken before egg kind of thing.
So you can put up like a economic depression for that question.
For a recession?
Yeah.
Alright, hold on. So a recession is defined as, from what I remember here in the news, is it 2 or 3 consecutive quarters? Two consecutive quarters of negative economic growth. So in other words, the GDP is decreasing, right? And a depression is where you have, well, way longer than that. So where the level of production in the country decreases, unemployment rises, decrease in productive capacity, that kind of stuff. So, right, a recession could lead to that if it's not managed well enough, right? Country's economy experiences 2 consecutive quarters of negative economic growth. In other words, its GDP is decreasing, right? So discuss 2 factors that contribute to this. So what could cause negative economic growth? Anybody, anything?
Increase in unemployment.
An increase in unemployment, okay. So one factor that can contribute to a recession is, okay, so before I type it out, so tell me, so you're saying an increase in unemployment. And somebody might actually argue the opposite. They might say a recession could trigger unemployment. But the thing is, to me, both are correct. It's just how you explain it. All right, so explain to me how an increase in unemployment could trigger a recession.
So,
or can be a factor leading to a recession.
If more people become unemployed, that means less production, less overall production in the country.
Okay.
Causing a decrease in economic growth.
Correct. So remember, economic growth is an increase in productive capacity, right? So if you have people losing jobs, for example, let's say foreign companies are just marketing their stuff so well down here that local businesses are going out of business. And if local companies go to business, of course, their employees are not going to have anywhere to work. You just have to think of Petrotrin, right? The international decrease in the price of fossil fuels over time has led to that market being a declining market, right? So of course, people who are business savvy and want to make money say, okay, look, we're not going to throw good money behind bad money. Just shut down the refinery. Plus, they will say the refinery is making millions and millions in losses, right, every day. So what's the point of just keeping that on, just to keep people being paid? I mean, you know, so you close down the factory, you have unemployment, and that can have a ripple effect, right? Because when people lose their jobs, they lose income, they lose spending power, and spending has that whole economic cycle going, right? So if you're taking money out of people's pockets, you're decreasing the whole cycle, right? So one factor that can contribute to recession is a rise in the level of unemployment, right? This can cause a decrease in the output level in a country and also contribute to falling incomes, which can have a knock-on effect of an overall decrease in demand for goods and services. Right, so when people lose their jobs, right, the output level could fall. You have fallen incomes, which could lead to an overall decrease in demand for goods and services, which can all ultimately lead to falling GDP, which is how we get to a recession, not so? All right. Let's set up another factor is, right? So another factor is, right? So we'll talk about that other factor and then we'll break for lunch because it is already 12:15, 12:16. I don't want you all to be overtired
or not well rested for the second session. There's 6 questions in this paper. Well, you have a choice.
I think they offer that anymore.
Answer all questions.
Yeah, I think I have to answer all questions now.
So it's 20 minutes a question basically. Alright.
Yeah, how long is the exam?
2 hours. Yeah, so it's 20 minutes per question.
20 minutes per question.
Yeah.
But then, is it supposed to be 5?
I want to say for the whole question. So like for the whole question 1.
Yeah, but then it's supposed to be 5 questions usually.
Well, up to 2017 there were 6 questions. Yeah, I didn't realize it was 6. Wow. Yeah, just for the record, I don't teach econ, right? But I could kind of do it.
Nancy, you did a good job.
Was that sorry?
You did a good job.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
You're just doing this based off of memory.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about this last one quickly, and then we'll talk about part. We'll finish off this question, part D. All right. Discuss 2 factors. So, what's another factor that can contribute to a recession? So we said unemployment. All right. What were some of the other things we dealt with earlier in this paper? What was the one just before this? Balance of payments, foreign exchange, that kind of stuff. All right.
So if there was a high deficit.
So if there was something that caused a deficit in the balance of payments.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk through. So I'm not gonna type. We'll just talk through some stuff just to kind of accelerate the process. Right. So talk to me. What a balance of payments deficit means what? That we have more imports than exports.
Yeah.
So we have more money flowing out than we have coming in. So how could that lead to a recession or declining productivity or that kind of stuff? Well, the first thing coming to mind is actually the same point you have on the board, right? Unemployment. Because if you have people locally demanding more foreign goods than local goods, then eventually what might happen is local factories, unless they pivot or strategize somehow, they could go out of business. If they go out of business, they fire the workers. Unemployment leads to this. So you could kind of chain it as a balance of payments disequilibrium into this. But there's another way to chain it as well. What about inflation too? What about if inflation starts to skyrocket and that kind of stuff? What does that do? It drives up prices. Driving up prices could drive us to cheaper goods, which may be from foreign, which causes the same thing again. All right. What about Sydney, our neighbors to the west, Venezuela? What's happening across there? Civil unrest, which leads to places being shut down. All right. And when places are shut down, sending unemployment. So it all seems to come out of unemployment. They had to have some other thing that could cause a recession, right?
So what do you mean by when you say inflation causes prices?
Right. So if we have a high level of local inflation relative to another country, and let's say in the supermarket you go and you have, let's say, local goods versus foreign goods, and they're the same, like rice or cereal or whatever, but our prices are rising relative to the foreign goods prices, right? So basic law of demand, first law of demand, more of a good or a service is demanded at lower prices and higher prices. So if you have substitutes, right? So if you have a cheaper substitute, you're going to go there, right? So if you go there, and eventually, if the local companies don't find a way to change their value proposition somehow, as in to convince us to buy their goods, even though it's more expensive, all money is going to go foreign. And if it's going foreign, it's not going local. And eventually, if it dries up sufficiently, there'll be no more, well, the local companies go out of business, long story short. They have no revenue, right? And if they go out of business, unemployment, recession.
So I switch it up and I said I increase in unemployment and increase in national debt.
Increase in national debt.
Yeah.
All right. So national debt is literally where the government borrows money and has to pay it back, right? And if they don't have enough money, they may have to sell off their local assets, right? Some examples of assets could be companies. If the government sells off the companies, right, to foreign entities or whatever the case is, they may just change all the workers. You never know. What else they might sell off? Yeah, they might sell off. Yeah, okay. All right. Okay. If we stick on this one too much, I mean, it's a nice question to be honest, right? But we could fast track and move on. Another factor is, but I just type the name of the next factor, boy. A balance of payments, right? Payments. This this equilibrium, right? Spiral inflation, or recession, mismanagement of the economy and its resources, civil unrest, harsh weather, harsh climate. Right. So anything here I think could be used to because remember right, sorry. One of the other things, so labor, which is what is part of unemployment, right? It's one factor of production. What are the other factors? Land, capital, and enterprise, right? Or entrepreneurship, right? So suppose your capital, you don't have much capital to pull from, right? Or sorry, not just capital, what about land? Right? Suppose, like we said, the government, you said national debt, right? A high level national, and they have to sell off like local resources to foreign bodies who then basically just extract it for their own use, and we don't get any benefit from it. You're leaving less resources for the locals to take advantage of and to sell and possibly export, right? So that is another good one to talk about, right? A lack of factors of production, right, which could come about because of mismanagement of the economy and resources, right? Lack of factors of production. All right, okay, guys. And this very quickly, let's just talk about part D, which is select one developed economy and one developing economy and describe one economic difference between these two economies. One economic difference, so one developed economy. So what country do you guys consider to be a developed economy?
US.
All right, so the USA can be considered a developed economy. And what country do you think may be a developing economy?
Cuba.
Cuba can be considered a developing economy, right? So, sorry. Hello? All right, there we're going on. Today is National Hamburger Day. Well, that sounds good. I don't. The factory. Tommy's. Yeah. The factory is Arapita opposite Republic. On the corner. Not Maurishi corner. The other corner after that. Yeah. You can do that. Tommy's. Well, Tommy's good then. Tommy's good. Yeah. You can try that one. Yeah. I only went there once. I can't remember what about. Yeah. Well. Yeah. Are the other one on now? Cool. I still downstairs. I had enough. We started a little late, so I wanted to finish off something. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Bye. Yeah, sorry guys, my mom just called in to say today is apparently National Hamburger Day.
So that means hamburger is cheaper today.
I don't know if they're cheaper. At least not here. I doubt it happening here. That they're cheaper. You never know. Some places might have specials. Alright, sorry. Okay, so we said describe one economic difference between these two economies. So what is one economic difference?
Well, our country GDP might be higher than the next one.
Well, it might. Do you know that for sure?
They could be producing more.
Who?
The developed
country. Okay. So you're saying basically that the USA has a more of a productive capacity or has a higher rate of production or level of production than does Cuba.
Greater quality of life than Cuba.
Greater quality of life than people in Cuba. Okay.
No offense to Cuba. All right. These are my students, not me. But that's just the analysis, right? They just right. Anyhow, but Cuba has a very strong healthcare system, right? Tourism as well as, and they've opened up. One of the last things they did is they opened up relations back with the US, so it's easier to go there now.
Recently also.
Yeah, within the last couple of years or so. I know one of my cousins and her husband went and they enjoyed their time there, to be honest. Alright. Okay, so describe one economic difference between these two economies, right? So the USA has a higher production level and exports a lot more, a greater value of goods than does Cuba, right?
Than does Cuba.
Yeah, that's a kind of older English way to say it, or you could say than Cuba does.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. As my styles kind of mixed up and merged sometimes. Right. Further, sorry, no, they said describe one economic difference for 4 marks, boy.
No, two.
Well, 2 marks
There
for
will be two.
naming the 2 countries and then 2 marks for explaining.
Okay. This is hold on. They said one economic difference, right? Because I'm only thinking about another one because, like, for example, they might have like greater freedoms in the States than they would have in Cuba.
There are more rights.
More lights?
Right.
Oh, more rights. Okay. Like more lights. Well, the sheer size of the States, meaning they'll have more lights, I suppose.
So that could be one that has certain size.
Yeah, just based on sheer size. I mean, you can have a large country and don't have much people doing productive things. Yeah, that's also a possibility, right? So citizens in the USA therefore have a higher level of income and enjoy a better quality of life. Yeah, I think it's not a pinch of salt, boy, because you watch some stuff on the news sometimes and you're like, the top suffering in the States too.
You would have chosen if you was to discuss it?
I don't know, boy. I might have gone European because, like, for example, like Finland has a real good education system. I think they have a better tax rate as well. Denmark is also pretty good in terms of its education system and healthcare. I think France and Canada have universal healthcare. The States doesn't. The States has, you have to pay for everything across there.
What's universal healthcare again?
Basically free healthcare. I know other countries, for example, I think in which European country was it? They have like a year for maternity leave. I think fathers get paternity leave as well. But the States, I think they have 2-3 months. I don't know if it's 6 months. I can't remember. I can't say for sure. I know what country had free education up to PhD, boy. Was that? Or this up to bachelor's? I don't know if it was Holland. One of my former students is studying across. I think her family is from Holland. I think the dad might be from Holland. The mom is from Suriname. But she's across in Holland doing her studies. Yeah. Japan is the next good example. They have a serious rate of production across there, a serious work ethic. All right. A lot of technological things come out of there. China is developed too. I don't think I would classify China as developing anymore because of the high level of output. Some parts. I mean, that's a very prime example of economic dualism. Yeah. Right? You have some very highly advanced parts of that country. As well, you have some parts of the country that are very much technologically advanced, and other parts are basically living in the bush. Right? But then again, people living in the bush may live longer. You never know. Healthier lives.
Yeah, that's what I asked.
What's that?
That's why I asked, because it comes on multiple choice.
I'm not overly familiar with the multiple choice, to be honest. I mean, it came on it?
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
I feel like
POB at least. Yeah, I don't know if it's Econ too.
I can't
It came in POB.
Oh, POB, sorry. But yeah, it's one way. A path is technologically advanced and one is technologically retarded. That's the disease.
Yeah, well, that is a word.
I get kind of confused when they use retarded.
All right. You always want to glance at question 5. I'm seeing stuff about unemployment. I'll be real frank with you all. That's not a topic I did when I was in Form 5 or Form 6. I don't know how we didn't do it, to be honest. We may have slightly glossed over it, but like I know you have like cyclical, you have frictional, you have seasonal, you have structural. But I know which one? Technological unemployment.
Real wage.
Which one?
Classical. Real wage.
Real wage unemployment.
Yeah.
Look, I didn't know about that. Right?
So it's 6 then.
Oh, it's 6.
Unemployment.
Cyclical, structural, technological, seasonal, real wage, and frictional.
All right. Yeah, nobody frictional.
This is
and
an
nobody
easy
seasonal.
question once you
Yeah, I mean, once everything is if you know your work, right? That's the trick. You have to know your work. All right. So, hold on. Let's define unemployment.
Unemployment is when a person is willing and able to work,
But
but they choose not.
No, you said willing
can't find it.
and
They
able,
can't find
but they cannot find a job.
Yeah.
All right. So unemployment is basically where you have a difference between the number of people willing and able to work and the number of jobs. All right. So if you to be more specific and probably more accurate, you have less jobs available than you have people who are willing and able to work in them. All right. And 5 types. So it's cyclical, structural. They said real wage, technological, and frictional.
Seasonal.
That's second one said. Cyclical, seasonal.
Cyclical, structural, technological, seasonal, real wage, and frictional.
And there's list 5 types, eh? Look how many lines you give over there.
So I kind of people
But it says list.
You have to explain in the next.
Explain how any 4 types of unemployment occur. All right, let's talk about that quickly. So let's start with cyclical. So cyclical to me has to do with business cycles, booms and busts.
Yeah.
So when businesses literally booming, you have high periods of economic growth, businesses hire more people.
Yeah.
And then eventually that dies out into a bust where business kind of slows down and then you let go your extra people. Right? So to me that's cyclical. Like I said, I'm not very strong in unemployment. I just kind of remember bits and pieces. Does that sound right or familiar? Yeah. So that's cyclical. Seasonal, that has to do when you have like a different seasons of the year, like carnival or like Christmas. So Christmas time, I know places anymore will hire more workers to cater for extra people, extra customers coming to buy things, right? Same with carnival, you have certain industries only appearing at certain times in the year, and hence the opportunity for employment in those industries is limited to those specific times, right? So when the season comes and then it goes, you're unemployed. So cyclical, seasonal. Well, I think technological is an easy one. We were talking about capital intensive earlier. So when technology, there's a Vice News documentary I want to see about the future of work. I've seen it a couple of times on the TV guide. Yeah, you gotta check it out. Check out on the live tour. You guys gotta check out that stuff because you guys are gonna be most affected by that. All right. So technology. So we said we did cyclical, seasonal, technological, frictional. Is that when people are changing jobs?
That's when it's
Like
Yeah.
There's a
between
period in
jobs.
between and they're looking for a
Right.
job.
So period in between.
Yeah.
All right. And then the last one was real wage. So real has to do with inflation. So is it that one where the level of inflation is outstripping your purchasing power? But I mean, how is that unemployment?
I don't know
Here's
now.
what I have. Real wage
Uh-huh.
unemployment occurs when the real wage for a job is first higher than the market clearing wage level.
Sorry. Start again.
Real wage unemployment
Uh-huh.
occurs when the real wage for a job is first higher than the market.
The real wage for a
Clearing
job
wage
is
level.
forced higher than the market clearing wage. Okay. So the market clearing wage is basically the price.
There's a
Yeah.
surplus amount of labor.
Right. So it basically is where it pushes the price of that job, the salary or wage for that job above what the market is willing to pay. So if you have a price, if price is too high, if you think about your demand and supply curves, it will hit the supply curve first. Will it? No, sorry, it hits the demand curve first. Right? So you're demanding more than the supply.
So isn't like workers are demanding high wages, so they give in to the high wages, but that means that they can't keep everybody, so they let go some people and keep the ones that they can't give the high wages to.
Okay. All right.
I think that's it, but I can't.
All right.
I'm just not gonna explain that.
Yeah, I myself, I've never actually heard of that one, but it sounds
I
so.
think the last one is
So real wage unemployment to me basically sounds like where you have to pay more than the job is worth
Yeah.
in salary. So therefore, you can't keep everybody at that wage.
You can
So
only pay a certain amount of people. So
Yeah.
if you wanted to let go there. Really
All right.
much.
Okay. Well, using table below, justify your choice of two persons who would be considered unemployed. Veronica was laid off and she has given up looking for work.
Yeah.
No.
Why not?
Because she given up. She able.
She able, not willing.
No, yeah, she not willing.
She's not willing. So you have to be willing and able to work to be considered unemployed, right?
She just
There.
Yeah. Stuart was fired as a teaching assistant and has applied for another job.
Unemployed.
That's unemployed. Fictional.
frictional.
Petra works 1 hour per week as a babysitter. No, was she working? She just chooses to work 1 hour a week. Denise is a university student with no outside employment. But she's still in school.
Yeah.
So she's not part of it.
She's not part of the labor force just yet. She could choose to be, but she chooses to go to school to pursue her education. Althea just lost her job but is actively seeking. Yeah, that's
Fine.
frictional again, right? Walter only sells an illegal drug and does not care about a regular job. No, he's not part of the labor force. Yeah, he's on the black market, I suppose. Alright.
Chris,
Yeah.
this one is for 5 months, so you just by saying.
Pick two
Yeah, like
people.
explain to
No, justify your choice.
Oh.
Justify.
So pick two people and say
Yeah, so Stuart was
why
fired.
they be considered unemployed.
Yeah.
So I find this people is nice.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Oh,
Yeah,
and they
so-
bring it like this tomorrow, you know.
No.
Alright, very quickly, because
If
I
they're not going to.
had to eat some lunch and then come back at it.
I think number 6 is probably the easiest question of them.
Well, let's see.
No, I read it already.
Are you ready?
It's not bad.
Alright, define each of the following as market equilibrium. Market equilibrium is where demand equal.
Equilibrium.
The market is an equilibrium, yes. Where demand is equal to supply. I agree. Ceteris paribus. All other factors remain constant.
The Latin too.
Latin term. I agree. List 3 factors that affect the price elasticity of demand.
Price.
Your level of income.
Yeah, that.
Right.
No, it's not income elasticity. You want your level of income.
Right. Yeah. So price elasticity has. I have 6
I
factors.
know.
Tell me.
Price elasticity. So that's the demand for the good.
The demand for the goods.
The price of the good.
Price of the goods.
And the changes in taste and fashion.
All right. So what you talking about sounds like factors affecting demand as opposed to factors affecting elasticity of demand.
The price
Alright.
of the good, the number and sources of substitutes.
That's factors affecting demand.
Elasticity.
Elasticity.
The number of uses of the good, the degree of necessity of the good.
Right. I could agree with those last 2 for sure. So
Habit.
right. I have an acronym I made up. It's not a very good acronym, but it's LENNSH, Lench. Luxury. If the good is a luxury or not. The amount of expenditure on the good. So if it's not much expenditure and there's a price change, you're not likely to decrease demand by much. If it's a large amount of expenditure, there's a price change, you might decrease expenditure. So that's L as E. N is necessity.
Yeah.
So if it's a necessity, even if price changes, you are not likely to demand that much less. LENN. What was the second N? I don't know. S was substitutes, I think it was.
Yeah.
Right? And H was habit forming.
That's like,
Or N was if it was a normal good.
what about complement?
Right, those things to me more have to do with factors affecting demand. Because you have factors affecting demand and then factors affecting price elasticity. And they were two separate groups, but they had a bit of an overlap. Right? For factors affecting demand, you had price and non-price. And non-price was my friend made up tip tap.
Like, for complements, like if one price increases and the next one increases, you won't really have like a change in your responsiveness because you buy it anyway because you have to.
You could, yeah.
Like
But I mean,
batteries.
yeah. But I think you might have a point there. They might have more, but I'm thinking. Okay, I think I'm over that. All right, next. Table shows the market for Tamron balls.
So the equilibrium price is $4.
Equilibrium is $4, right? At 8,000 units. Explain the situation that would exist in the market if the price is $5. If it's $5, you have more supply than demand. What's that? Surplus?
Yes.
Surplus, right. Means you have a greater amount supply than demanded because the price is simply too high. Explain the situation that would exist in the market if the price is $1.
A surplus in demand. No.
As a shortage, which means demand is greater than supply. So yes, you have a surplus demand and a shortage of supply.
Yeah.
And it would force what? Upward pressure on price. Price to rise. After 10 years, the market for tamarind balls suddenly failed. Discuss 2 possible reasons for the failure. Okay, so market failure.
There are substitutes.
I'm not sure about that one.
There.
Hold on. When a market fails, what does that mean? It means it's in disequilibrium, not so? And if it's in disequilibrium, demand is unequal to supply.
Right.
Alright, so what would cause demand not to be
I
equal to
don't see,
supply?
like, I just think about like tamarind balls, you know, like I just think people would shy away from it as a viable substitute.
Okay, so you're saying now market failure doesn't mean that there's no more market for it. I mean, actually, yeah, other rest in this one too. Yeah, market failure.
That means tamarind balls are no longer.
It simply means that demand is unequal to supply.
Yes, I mean, if this doesn't mean so I would
Alright.
substitute.
So you would say basically that that the market for substitutes became very strong relative to this market, and maybe taste and fashion, taste and preferences change as well. Okay, so the level of demand just is not meeting the level of supply. Yeah, well that's basically what it is. Demand unequal to supply. Okay.
I don't usually think that.
Anybody else have any causes for market failure?
Market failure.
Yeah. It says to discuss 2 possible reasons for market failure. So what Jordan was saying is that one possible reason is that the market for substitutes developed very strongly.
On the provision for public goods.
On the provision of public and merit goods.
Yeah.
Well, that is an example of market failure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not the reason for market failure behind this one.
Also, I didn't really consider this.
Right. But that's a good example, right? On the provision of public and merit goods.
So if the price of a substitute is cheaper than this market would fail now,
Well, the demand for this would definitely drop. And if price doesn't fall, there will be disequilibrium. Because if you have the same price and demand drops, right? You either have a decrease in supply to match the contraction in demand, or you don't. And if you don't have that shift in the supply curve, when price rises above equilibrium, you're going to have less demand and supply.
what is the second one?
I'm thinking. Second reason for market failure. Dominic, anything?
No.
Yeah, me neither. I draw in blanks here. So anybody in life have reason for market failure? Anybody? Nobody? Nothing? Alright, anyhow, I'll show us something. I have to get back to IT. Well, actually, that was what John was alluding to. He was saying that if people's taste change and they would shy away from this particular market, then yeah, the suppliers might keep producing and supply might stay high, but demand falls. And then what happens is you have this equilibrium.
But it can't be like it became too expensive because it's not really like a good thing. Like, it can't be that hard to make.
True.
But you can't say the cost of production became too.
Yeah, it could. Maybe it did. Maybe their raw material, their resources dried up, or maybe the government stopped subsidizing them, or whatever the case is. It became more expensive for that type of production process.
So you say the cost of production.
Yeah, the cost of production, or let's maybe, yeah, or maybe technology, raw materials, yeah. Because yeah, we have had situations where the raw materials for certain industries kind of dried up, the supply dried up because, people just weren't putting more money behind them. They were more better alternatives where they could get better returns. All right, we're gonna stop there. All right, so we went.
So do you answer the question?
Yeah.
So I just asked him if they can do SATs instead of Form 6 for university.
Yeah, you could. That's up to you.
So
All right.
SATs are?
If you don't prepare for it,
How much tests you have to do?
how many?
Yeah.
Just 2.
Isn't it just math and English?
Yeah.
We'll be back.